Shit. Welcome back, fight fans. It's your boy Blue, episode 15 now. Of course, we're gonna talk about UFC 268, which was last Saturday. Then we're gonna be talking about this week, which of course, Holloway's back against Rodriguez. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. So we'll open by talking about, of course, UFC 268, Usman, Covington. We'll start with the prelims. The prelims, I mean, they started off a bit, like the first few were okay. But then, then in the fourth fight of the night, Chris Barnett, John Vellante, unbelievable. I gave this KO of the night. It's not every day that you see a big guy like Chris Barnett get a wheel kick KO. Not only that, dancing to the octagon, does a front flip after he gets the KO. Unbelievable. I'm a fan now. I followed him. I mean, what a guy. Easy choice for KO of the night. The other prelim, the first prelim that I talked about last time, Shabazian and Mavov. I was going into it saying Shabazian by decision. He had lost two in a row, but it was to Brunson. And who was the other guy here? It was Brunson and Hermanson. So, I was like, he should be okay. But Imavov came in and, it was pretty close until it wasn't. I mean, Imavov was kind of edging ahead on the cards, but it was pretty close. It just didn't help that Edmund kept getting caught in the worst positions. It was terrible. I mean, yeah, on the feet, it was fine. But then on the ground, it was like he was being submission attempts all over the place, getting his chin underneath the chin constantly. It just wasn't great. I don't know what's going on with him. It's too bad. It's too bad, really. And he's kind of in a weird position now. He's 3 losses down now. Before, by the way, again, hadn't lost at all, but now it's 3 losses in a row. He's probably outside of the middleweight rankings now. I haven't checked today, so I'm not sure if he's on there or not. He's probably not, and that's too bad. But again, remember, he's only 23 years old. He's only 23. So, I mean, his career is just getting started. And I mean, it's crazy to say that considering he was ranked, I don't even know what his highest ranking was. Might have even been somewhere around 8 or 9. I mean, he was ranked pretty high there. So, it's not good, and maybe he might get cut at some point, but I mean, he's so young that, I mean, if he goes back, does a lot of training, especially with the wrestling, maybe, if he puts all that training and all the work in, I mean, he's just 23. We'll see him back, I'm sure. And as for Imavov, I mean, he's probably going to get somebody in the top 10 soon, I would think. Maybe Uriah Hall, maybe somebody tougher like Hermanson. That's probably what's next for him. But yeah, he looked really good. The next one, oh no, not the next one. The next one was Phil Hawes, Chris Curtis. Rest in peace, everybody's parlay. Oh my God. Unreal. But I did give Chris Curtis a bonus here. Of course, pretty much like everybody else, I thought Hawes was going to win by a finish here. I mean, I also told people to see this just because Phil Hawes is never one to miss. And again, I thought this was a pretty mismatched fight. He hadn't lost in the UFC up until that point. He had beaten Imavov, who I just talked about. He beat Kyle Dawkins. I mean, it just seemed like a pretty clear, easy win for Hawes on paper. But but hey, the first round, well, up until of course the end of it, it was definitely all Hawes. He was just lighting him up. He was just outclassing him everywhere. And then I don't know what happened. Like Curtis landed a huge bomb on Hawes, and that was just it. And I think maybe it might have been, maybe Hawes got a little too confident. I don't know, because to me it looked like he was almost toying with him. He got way too confident. I think that might have been his problem here. He just got too confident, got too reckless, didn't respect the power coming back at him, and just got clipped like that. I don't know. That's what I think happened. I'm not sure. Whatever it was, Curtis showed that he is definitely here to stay. And like I said, I gave him a good old BLÜ bonus for the most valuable fighter. I mean, this guy has a crazy story. I wrote it down here, but it's not in this part of the notes. Excuse me. He won on the Contender Series a few years ago, but he didn't get the contract. Went to, I think it was PFL, which I think is Premium Fight League. I think that's what it's called. Lost twice in one night, which is, that's crazy that he even fought twice in one night. And especially after the first loss, you lose once, you're like, okay, I'm done for the night. Lost twice in one night, and then slowly made his way back into winning. And then the first UFC fight you get matched up with Phil Hawes. I mean, that's crazy. And then he ends up winning. So most valuable fighter, easy pick there. And congrats to him. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. It really is. But too bad for Hawes. And again, too bad for all of our parlays. That ruined absolutely all of them. But again, good for him. After that, I'll talk about this one. This was an interesting one. It was Bobby Green, Al Iaquinta. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I had Iaquinta going into this. I thought it was going to be a close one. I thought it was going to be a decision, honestly. And, I thought, okay, maybe Bobby Green's going to win by decision here. Or maybe he's going to get a KO, maybe in the third round. I don't know. But I thought it was going to be really close. I really thought that. I wrote that everywhere. I mean, but nope. It was not. It was not close at all. Bobby Green it was a short fight, but he dominated the whole thing. I mean, easy win for Bobby Green. It was crazy. And apparently that was the first time Iaquinta had ever been knocked out. Who saw that coming? I didn't see that one coming. I know I did not see that one coming at all. After that, excuse me, it was the last prelim, the featured prelim that I also mentioned last time. This was the kind of strange situation we had here. We had Michailidis on one side, Pereira on the other. Michailidis, we've seen him a couple times, 1 win, 1 loss. But then the weird one was, of course, the other side, Pereira, only a 3-1 record, not usually in the UFC. But of course, it's because he is one of the greatest kickboxers in Glory Kickboxing history. So, I mean, you got to have him in. But when you see that, especially when it's kickboxing, you don't know how that's going to translate. Like, are they going to be able to deal with the actual MMA part of it? Can they deal with the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, grappling, all that? Can they handle that? That was my question going into it. I did say that there was probably going to be a Pereira finish because, again, I mean, Joe Rogan talked about it quite a bit on the actual night, that Pereira just has ridiculous, ridiculous power. I mean, he sends people flying. That's what Rogan was saying. And you know what? I believe it. I looked at some of the KOs. So yes, he had the power. I thought he was going to use that power to get the finish. And that is exactly what we saw. But you know what? Like I said, we had a lot of questions going in. And I think, I think the question was kind of answered. Could he deal with it? Yes. But we're not talking about a top contender here. We're talking about Michailidis. Like I said, he's 1-1. It's not like he's ranked or anything like that. He's just, I was even saying that what the UFC is probably doing here is they're throwing a kind of easier opponent at Pereira just to see where he's at. And I think that's exactly what they did here. They threw somebody, who is well-rounded, but not necessarily hugely skilled. Like he's not even really on the edge of breaking into the rankings. So was that question answered? I mean, yes, he did deal with it, but like I said, you're not fighting the best. So, and he was controlled quite a bit. He wasn't dominated or thrown around or anything, but he was controlled quite a bit. So I think he definitely has a lot of work to do before he starts climbing into those ranked people. But like we said, though, he was a kickboxer and he proved that he can compete with a real MMA fighter. Because although despite what I had just said about Michailidis, he is a true MMA fighter. He is well-rounded. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He can compete in the stand-up. So, that in itself is saying something. And at the start of the second round there, we saw exactly why he's so feared in the kickboxing world. He landed a huge flying knee. And honestly, if it weren't for Chris Barnett getting one of the wildest KOs I've ever seen, this would have probably gotten the KO of the night. A huge knee like that was insane. But what's next for him now? What's next for him? If the UFC is smart, which normally they are, but you never know. If they're smart, they're going to give Pereira a couple more fights before handing him to somebody ranked. Because that would be the worst thing. You don't want to ruin this guy's career by throwing him in against somebody that's ranked and a ranked wrestler. I mean, you're just asking him to be finished. Like, you got to make his way up. He's got to have at least one or two, you're not going to throw him against a kickboxer or a boxer or something like that. That would be silly. You are going to throw him against some people who are wrestling dominant, but not somebody that's in the rankings yet. You're going to throw him one, maybe two more like that. And then if he does really well there, then you give him somebody ranked, see what he does, and then you work your way up from there. But, yeah. Actually, you know what? Maybe even a good choice. We just talked about it. Maybe Shabazian. I just thought of that right now. Is that even the same weight class? I can't remember, but that would be an interesting one. But maybe one before that. Anyway, after that, we had the main card. I was going to look up why Gaethje and Chandler opened the main card. I honestly have no idea because it wasn't supposed to be originally. Obviously, that was supposed to be just before the title fights. I mean, that seems like a pretty obvious choice. I actually don't know why. I was going to look that up. I didn't do that. But we opened up the main card with Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, and it was everything we hoped it would be. And more. I mean, going into this, I had it as a toss-up. They're both so similar. They're both absolutely insane. You knew it was going to be an insane stand-up battle, maybe with a little bit of wrestling thrown in. I said I was leaning towards Chandler because I just thought that his fighting style would kind of go towards that. Also, I mean, he just lost the title fight to Oliveira. And honestly, he was winning that fight in the first round. And I mean, we saw what happened to Gaethje, and that was way over a year ago. So, all of that combined, I was going Chandler. But I mean, Gaethje just he went back to what he was like, what we saw against Ferguson. That's the Justin Gaethje that we saw here, and oh my God, was it absolutely insane! Easy choice for Blue's Brawl of the Night. That blue bonus. I mean, it was unbelievable. I gave Chandler the edge in the first round. Gaethje clearly won the second round with the knockdown. And the final round was a bit of a coin toss. I thought, Gaethje probably edged ahead there. So yeah, obviously we thought Gaethje get the unanimous decision. But the real winners here, all of us. I mean, fight fans everywhere. It was just crazy. It was absolutely insane to watch. And honestly, I'm not even really sure why. Like the plus minus on this one, as I mentioned, last one was, I think it was 1.5 rounds. I mean, I threw some money on that being over for sure. I got some change back there. I don't know why people. I mean, yeah, sure, they're KO people. You might see a KO, but I mean, hey, we cashed in on that one. Cashed in real nice. So what's next for those two? What's next? Gaethje said if he doesn't get the title shot, we riot. And honestly, how do you argue with that, really? After losing to Khabib and now beating the previous title challenger Chandler, he obviously deserves the title shot. The only other contender that we seem to see coming up is Islam, but he hasn't really fought somebody in the top 5. Hooker, yes. You could argue that he is, he's definitely that kind of caliber, but is he the same kind of caliber as Poirier or Oliveira or Gaethje? Not really. I don't know. So I think Islam has to fight elite or Dariush. I think Dariush Islam, that makes sense. So obviously the title then should be whoever wins this. I'm going for Oliveira probably, but Poirier could win though. It really could go either way. I'm a toss up on that still, but either way, whoever wins that goes against Chandler for the belt, maybe like 4 or 5 months down the road. Who knows? That is probably what's next for Gaethje. As for Chandler, and I saw it on Twitter, but honestly, I wrote this in my article on Sunday, and I hadn't seen anybody talking about this before the two of them talked about it. Chandler, McGregor, why was that not immediately something that people were thinking about? I mentioned this months ago even. I mentioned this after McGregor lost his last one. I said, Chandler, that's the perfect matchup. They're both exciting. They're both, they're both performers. They're both in for a good brawl. I mean, how is that not the fight to make? But for both of them, I mean, it just makes so much sense, especially since, you just saw Conor lose to Poirier twice. And I mean, you're not going to throw him against somebody at the bottom of the rankings. Who the fuck would do that? That would be stupid. So, and you're not going to throw Chandler against anybody down there either. It just doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, the obvious choice here, and you're not going to throw him against Dariush. Who would pay to see? I mean, I would still pay to see that, but who cares, really? You obviously, the pay-per-view numbers on that, Chandler McGregor, I would be absolutely nuts. I mean, you got to make that happen. And I've been saying this for months, and finally people are realizing it. Finally, Chandler and McGregor themselves are realizing it. I can't wait. I mean, it has to happen. It has to happen. After that, I mean, holy shit. It was another absolutely insane fight. But guess what? After Gaethje and Chandler, nobody gave a shit. It was dead quiet in there. But it was seriously an insane fight. In fact, it actually broke It broke some records. That's how good it was. But nobody cared. Going into it, I said Burgos by decision. Because what did I say here? Yeah, Burgos only had 3 losses, all of them to top contenders: Cater, Emmett, Barboza, and then Quarantillo had lost. Quarantillo, I forget. I think it's Quarantillo. Billy Q, whatever. He only lost once, but it was to Gavin Tucker last year. So I just thought the experience for Burgos would get ahead on that one. And that's exactly what we saw here. And like I said, I even wrote it here. If we would have seen this fight on any other night, or even earlier in the night, I mean, the crowd would have gone absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But because it was after probably one of the best lightweight fights ever, definitely one of the best 3-rounders in lightweight history for sure. I mean, it just sucks that they were in that position, and that's why they should have been just before the title fights. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, oh my God, what a mistake. Anyway, this easily would have gotten a fight of the night bonus. I should have even given a second brawl of the night bonus. I didn't though. It's okay. But yeah, anyway, it was a wild 3-round stand-up fight. Both fighters landed huge shots, and then after Burgos landed a bunch of devastating calf kicks. I mean, they were insane. He started to edge ahead there, and in the end, like I said, they broke the division's record for combined strikes landed, and Burgos won that close decision. What a fight. And what's next for him? He's still Burgos, definitely still a featherweight contender. Most of the division, as we're going to see for this next fight, they're already tied up. So we'll probably have to see him fight someone near the bottom, maybe like Mitchell, Yusuf, or maybe even Alex Caceres, who just got ranked. That would be great too. Yeah. After that, we had Frankie Edgar and Chito Vera. Before we had Edgar ranked at 8th, Vera ranked at 13th. I mean, obviously Edgar is the way more experienced fighter. Vera being the younger fighter, improving every time. Maybe Edgar's getting slightly less good. Who knows? I had Edgar by decision before the fight. And honestly, I mean, following the theme of the night, really, which was every single fight was pretty much tightly contested the whole time, really. Edgar used his cardio and his experience in the first half of the fight. I thought he easily won the first half of that fight for sure. The second half was dead even until Vera landed a ridiculous front kick to get the TKO. And how dare you, Twitter, for making that a meme? I mean, Edgar does not deserve that at all. He does not deserve that. To take those memes down. How dare you? What is next for Edgar, though? He's obviously got a few more good fights in him, but we're probably going to see him fighting somebody unranked. And that's okay. Edgar is still good. I mean, he's still going to be a fan favorite no matter what. And I still can't wait to see him fight, no matter who that is. And as for Chito, he's obviously going to be fighting somebody in the top 10. I mean, he clearly earned it here. Maybe even a top 5 contender, I wrote here. For now, because all the top fighters are busy, it's tough to say who he should fight next, really. I'm thinking that if Merab and Sandhagen don't fight each other, I could see Vera getting one of those two. I think that either one of those would be really good. I think Vera probably loses both of those, but that's probably what we're going to see next, something like that. After that, we had the co-main, the first belt of the night, Thug Rose, Weili. I mean, going into it, I'll admit I did say, because I said this last stream, I thought Weili was, I don't know. I don't even know really why Weili got a rematch here, considering she got KO'd in the first round. But, you know, I knew this one was going to be a lot closer, so I guess it's fair. That being said, I thought Rose would probably get a finish again, so I did predict Namajunas by finish. But, excuse me, I wasn't necessarily all that surprised that it got all 5 rounds here. And this really was a close fight that we expected the first time around. Because, I mean, I don't think anybody was expecting her to get the first round KO last time. So this is the fight that we expected we would get the first time around. Dead even. And I thought in the first half, Rose seemed to have a clear edge in power. Weili stumbled quite a few times after Rose's punches, but then Weili challenged her with some ground control. And then in the second half, honestly, that completely flipped. I thought Weili was doing better at stand-up, and Rose was definitely controlling on the ground. I mean, that's literally the only reason she won the fight. And after watching all 5 rounds, honestly, I don't think most people, if they're being completely honest, really know who is going to win that fight. I was worried. I don't know. I really didn't know who was going to win that one. I kind of thought maybe Rose edged it, but I wasn't sure. And in the end, I guess that was warranted. We saw a split decision with Rose ahead. A bit weird on the scorecards, but we're not going to go into that because, again, we mention that literally every week, that there's some card that's like, what the fuck is happening? But anyway, she still probably deserved that. Anyway, what is next? For Rose, everybody's saying Carla Esparza. I totally agree. In fact, Rose herself said that's the only thing that makes sense. I 100% agree. For Weili, though, I'm sure they're probably going to just be throwing the top contenders at her. Again, that also makes sense, and she's probably going to beat most of them. She'll probably be fighting Rodriguez next after that win over Dern. I mean, you know, that kind of makes sense. Rodriguez is kind of the main person coming up. That one makes sense. That's all good. But what do I want to see? What do I want to see? And I don't know why nobody ever talks about this. I don't know. I mean, well, we did just see Andrade do it. But why do we not see the top people at strawweight going up to fight Shevchenko? Sure, maybe you're probably going to lose. Let's be honest. You're probably going to lose. But you're getting a title shot and you're getting a huge payday. Why not do it? And you know what? I think Weili's pretty good. I mean, you know, why not see Weili against Shevchenko? I mean, it makes sense to me. Why wouldn't we see that? Sure, again, Shevchenko probably still going to win. I wouldn't say fairly easily, but it's going to be a lot tougher than her other opponents, except for maybe Andrade. But I mean, you're telling me Lauren Murphy has a better chance over Weili? I don't think so. I don't think so. So why not? Weili is also just a huge strawweight. So, I mean, let her bulk up, put 6 months, you know, wait about 6 months, get the extra bit of muscle on. It's only 10 pounds. She probably cuts down probably about 10 pounds anyway. So why not do that? It just makes so much sense. I mean, yeah, that would be an insane fight. I would love to see that. And that honestly should headline its own thing. It's so good. That is what I want to see. But we're probably not going to see that. We're probably not seeing that. But I want to see it. After that, we had the main event. Usman, Covington. This was another one where I said it last week. I thought it was a bit undeserved. I don't know why Covington got the shot here, but whatever, you know. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I thought Usman was gonna get a finish pretty easily here. Even when I was watching it, I thought he was gonna get a finish pretty easily. But just like the fight just before this with Weili and Rose, it was kind of the fight that we thought we were going to see. Actually, we did see it the first time they fought. But this is the kind of fight that we all wanted, I guess. I mean, you know, yeah, would it be satisfying if Usman would have gotten a first or second round finish? Yes. Yes, it would have been very satisfying. But this is also, I think this is what everybody wanted to see. This is what Usman fans wanted to see. And if they exist, that's what Colby fans wanted to see. It's what everybody wanted to see. Let's be honest. You know, a bloodbath, just a huge, well, it wasn't really a bloodbath, but, you know, it was just a huge 5-round battle. That's what we wanted to see. Again, I thought he was going to get a finish. I thought it was going to be kind of similar to the first time in the 4th round, the 5th round, maybe, because Covington definitely has one hell of a chin. And you know what? I was almost right. We did almost see a finish. Really probably could have been a finish in the 2nd round. I mean, that was insane. And how he kept going after all that, I have no idea. I mean, I swear I heard and saw Covington literally go face first into the ground. So how he got over that and ended up finishing the fight like that, props to him. I still think he's garbage, but you know, as a person, but still, I mean, you got to give him props for that. But yeah, I mean, it was really just a showcase of how good Usman really is. And I think we kind of all know, yes, Covington, at least I think, Covington definitely won 2 of those rounds. To anybody that says he won 3 or 4 rounds, you're out of your fucking mind. But, you know, he definitely won 2 rounds there. So I'll give you that. As for the takedowns, we're not going to talk about those takedowns. Apparently, according to the rules, they're not takedowns. Fair enough. I listened to the rules and I was like, okay, I kind of get it. But, you know, when you kind of see that, I was like, I think one of those was a takedown, but whatever. It's okay. And then after, what's next for the 2 of them? I mean, it's the same situation that we see with Shevchenko and Nunes. Usman finds himself kind of just waiting for another contender. I mean, what's interesting is I wrote a bunch of stuff down here, but I just found out on Twitter just before this stream. I mean, they posted, I think it was a few hours ago, that Masvidal actually left the fight against Edwards. So, I mean, honestly, what's next for Usman? It kind of just seems like Edwards is next. I mean, that just makes sense. Because, yeah, I mean, he deserves it. And some people are saying Luque, but I mean, why? Like, you know, I get it. I get that Luque is great. But I mean, Leon is what, on like a 9-fight win streak right now or something? Luque did what? He finished Woodley's career. Like, yeah, that's cool. That's pretty good, but still, so did Jake Paul. So, I mean, I don't know. You know, we're making jokes here, but still. But, you know, is that as impressive as what Edwards is doing? Not really. No, it's really not. So I think Edwards clearly deserves that. What did we see here? What did I say here after that? But other than that, like I said, it's only Luque. Of course, we all want to see Chimaev, what he can do. But I mean, you gotta, you know, he's obviously got 1 or 2 more fights in. And they're actually even saying maybe Chimaev and Edwards. I mean, rip Edwards' career if that happens. Because honestly, I'd be worried. I'd be really worried if I was him. But that was scheduled for earlier this year, and he might have won because, you know, Chimaev had really bad COVID, so maybe he would have been hindered enough to lose. But honestly, considering what we just saw, this would have been last week with Chimaev, I think Edwards would be in trouble. I think he would be in huge trouble there. But anyway, yeah, I think Usman Edwards makes sense, unless, of course, Chimaev is going Edwards. But then, I mean, what do you do after that? If Chimaev just steamrolls right through Edwards, I mean, if you were going to give Edwards the title shot, does that mean Chimaev's getting the title shot after that? I don't know. Maybe. Talk amongst yourselves. Leave a comment. What do you think about that? In the meantime, we're going to go take a short break before we talk about what's coming up this week in Holloway and Rodriguez. I will be back in 30 seconds. See you then.
Allow me to introduce Pie Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen, when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back. We're going to start off with the main card as always. And sadly for us, I mean, it's not that early, but it is kind of early. The main card starts at 1 p.m. PST. That means the prelims start early. I think they start at 10. Good God. I kind of hate when they do that. But I mean, who am I to complain? We're still in a good area to watch fights. At least we're not in like, Australia or somewhere in Europe where they're just struggling to stay awake at 5 a.m. Anyway, it still kind of sucks. But we're opening the card with a banger. We're opening up with Song Yadong, Julio Arce. What do I have right here? I have this one pretty close. I mean, we just saw Song a few months ago. He got the tight split decision win over Casey Kenny. That one could have gone either way. I think I remember even thinking that maybe Casey Kenny kind of won that. I remember it was pretty close. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking then. I didn't write it down. But I remember that it was very, very close. Nonetheless, he still looked great, and he obviously still earned his spot, number 15 in the rankings. And that was just the latest in a string of really impressive performances, really, because he has a win over Vera, and he only has Chito, who we just talked about, and he only has 1 loss in his whole UFC career. On the other side, Arce is 2-2 in his last 4 fights. His last one being a win against Andre Ewell. I mean, maybe it's not too much of a toss-up here. I don't know. Song clearly has more factors leaning in his favor. He's also 9 years younger than Arce. And despite that age gap, he's actually competed more and won more against the stronger competition. Normally, this means a finish. I don't really think we're going to see a finish here because Arce has only lost once in the UFC. Oh, what did I say here? Lost in the UFC. Oh, yeah. Arce has only lost in the UFC by decision. So he's never been finished in the UFC. Plus, most of Song's fights in the UFC end in decisions. So this is shaping up to be a definite decision here. And because there's so much leaning for Song Yadong here, I'm pretty sure we're seeing a fairly dominant decision win here. And we're going to look at the odds. I'll throw up the banner as always. Of course, go over to Area 51, and then it'll link you over to Bet99. You can get that instant match $600 bonus. We'll talk about that later a bit more right at the end. But for now, again, always go over there to Bet99. The first one, like I said, Song Yadong. He's at minus 137 right now. Arce plus 110. To me, that is slightly bizarre to me. I think Yadong should be definitely way bigger favored here. Definitely throw some money at that. I'll definitely be throwing some money at that. I might even include it in a parlay to really get those odds in our favor here, get some extra change going. That is a pretty easy choice here. And over 2.5, they've got minus 234. They clearly see what I see, that it's definitely going to be a decision. So I'm not really sure that I would throw some money at that. I mean, minus 234, whatever. Plus 180 at the under 2.5. In fact, you might even want to throw $1 or $2 at the under 2.5, plus 180. Because like I said, it's pretty one-sided, I think. You might see a Yadong finish. you might see Yadong finish. Oh my God. I can't believe that just happened. Anyway, yeah, those are some pretty decent odds in our favor here, especially that minus 137. I like that a lot. After that, they've got Roman Dolidze, Kyle Daukaus. I mean, I'm sure most people know this was supposed to be the rematch, of course, between Kevin Holland, Kyle Daukaus. We saw, yes, last time, the accidental headbutt ruined the whole fight in the first round. So we wanted to see that. Sadly, Holland had to pull out. That really sucked. It really does suck. I really wanted to see that. But Dolidze has a solid start in his UFC career. 3 wins in 4 fights. None of them really that noteworthy, to be honest. And for Daukaus, there isn't really much that needs to be said. I mean, we just talked about him, like I said, a few weeks ago. Or actually, it was a month ago now. Wow, time flies. Daukaus did finish Holland in the last fight. That was, of course, after that accidental headbutt. But he did finish him kind of twice, actually. But, of course, again, we won't count that because it was a no contest. Also, I mean, you could tell how rocked Holland was. I mean, I don't think that would have happened had he not gotten accidentally headbutted. But anyway, the fact that it was that close, and because Kyle Daukaus has looked so good, I have to believe that Daukaus is going to be just too much for Dolidze. I really think that. That being said, Dolidze is a tough fighter. I don't think he's going to be finished. So what I think we're going to see here is we're probably going to see a decision here either way. And I'm saying that we're probably going to see Daukaus here. I mean, when you do that to Holland, and even before that with his other fights, he's been so good. I think we're seeing Daukaus here for sure. And if you look at the odds, minus 225 for Daukaus. So they're very clearly leaning that way too. That's totally fair. Plus 183 for Dolidze. And the over-under, we see minus 189 for over 2.5. Of course, again, I think it's kind of similar in that they're seeing that Dolidze is a hard guy to finish. And does Daukaus have that kind of finishing power or even the wrestling capability to do that? I'm not sure. That's why it's at minus 189. The under 2.5, plus 145. I mean, again, though, you're not talking about 2 huge ranked contenders here. I mean, anybody can get finished. Under 2.5, it's not really out of the question. You might even want to throw a couple bucks at that. I don't know. After that, we've got a women's fight. We've got Felicia Spencer, Leah Letson. I have no idea who Letson is. I had to do some more research than normal here. And even more rare than a women's fight late, we've got a women's featherweight fight, which we don't normally see, which is too bad because honestly, actually, I don't know. I was going to say those are the best ones, but honestly, the strawweights are so good. But anyway, we see the featherweights. This one to me is actually a complete toss-up, and I do know why the odds are one-sided, but I think this is way, way closer than people think it's going to be. Spencer is coming in after losing 3 of her 5 bouts in the UFC. But I mean, obviously, yes, of course, those 3 losses, Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, and Dumont. There's no shame in any of those 3. They're insane. So, her MMA career is fairly impressive. Let's just say that. And on the other side, Leah Letson, she was a competitor on The Ultimate Fighter in 2018, but she hasn't fought since then. She has not fought since the finale of the Ultimate Fighter that night. And she also was not in the finale. Like, she wasn't in the final. She was just fighting on the same card. But anyway, but yeah, because of Felicia's losses and Letson's inactivity, this really could go either way for me. Because of the recent activity, especially since it was to the top contenders, I'm thinking that the safer bet is Spencer, but there's a very good chance that we'll be seeing this bout go to a decision. But I think that, there may be a chance that Letson isn't really used to being hit as hard as Felicia hits. Who knows? Especially after being away for that long. You don't know how the chin is going to hold up. Because of that, I'm saying actually we might get a Spencer finish here. I forgot I wrote that. But that's actually a very good point. Look at that, making points, and I didn't even think about it until now when I read it. This is why I write things ahead of time, of course. Because of that extra power, like I said, because of that extra power, and because she hasn't fought in so long, you don't know how the chin's going to hold up. You might actually see a Spencer finish here. And that's important because of the odds that I'm about to read. Minus 313 for Spencer, which I think may be warranted, maybe not. I think it is a little closer than that. Plus 240 for Letson. So again, you maybe even just want to throw a couple bucks on Letson here just to cover your spread. Maybe add Spencer to a parlay, put a bunch of money on Letson, even it out. Who knows? Anyway, you got the over-under on this, minus 234 for over 2.5, plus 175 for under 2.5. I do think this is probably going to go to a decision, but like I said, with Spencer's power and the fact that Letson hasn't fought in 3 years, so she hasn't taken those huge punches like Spencer throws out, you might see a finish here. So I think plus 175 might actually be a nice little sprinkle opportunity there, as Yanni the Greek would say. After that, we've got the heavyweights back in action. Ben Rothwell, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. That's a long name. In the co-main, you got Ben Rothwell back. I mean, his record's been a little spotty, to say the least. He's won half of his fights since his return to the UFC in 2019. But that's not to say that he hasn't looked good. 3 of those wins were to top contenders like Stefan Struve, OSP, and the newcomer, Chris Barnett, who we talked about earlier today, the hero of the night, with the wheel kick KO, the dancing machine, which was actually just a couple months ago, I believe. And on the other side, we've got De Lima, and he's in kind of the same situation. He's only won about half of his fights since he was added to the UFC in 2014. Rothwell is just a very clear favorite for this fight, just based on the experience and the strength of competition alone. Also, another interesting fact here is that all of De Lima's losses in the UFC have been by submission. And who has a lot of submissions? Ben Rothwell. So I'm actually even probably going to throw some money at getting a submission here. That's how confident I am with this one. I mean, yeah, I'm obviously not saying it's a lock here, but I mean, I'm definitely throwing some money at it. And what I find fascinating here is if you head over to the odds, the Bet99 odds, it's Ben Rothwell minus 155 and De Lima at plus 125. I think that is wild. I mean, listen to what I just said. Like, Rothwell beat Stefan Struve, OSP, and Barnett, and De Lima, and all of those other fights way before that. Let's not forget all of those. And De Lima is half and half in his UFC career. And like I said, he's lost by submission quite a few times. And Rothwell gets a shit ton of submission wins. To me, this is so clearly favoring Rothwell. I mean, I don't even see why it's minus 155. He should be, I would say, at least minus 200, minus 250, somewhere in that range. I mean, it's crazy. So I'm definitely throwing some money at Rothwell here. And what's interesting is Bet99 does not have an over-under on this one yet. So we'll stay tuned on that. But I would probably say it's probably going to be under the 2.5. If that's what the odds are going to come out as, I'm going to bet that for sure if that's what the case. But we'll see what the odds come out as. We'll see. if they even do it. I mean, I've never seen it where they don't do it, but it is the only fight here that doesn't have an over-under right now. Anyway, moving on. The one we've all been waiting for, the return of Max Holloway. Oh my God. I mean, who hasn't been waiting to see this? I mean, the legend. I could watch Max Holloway fight every week. He's just so fun to watch. He's just absolutely incredible. So, and I mean, like I said, does Holloway even need an intro here? I mean, he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. He took Volkanovski to a decision twice in a row. That's 10 rounds, 50 minutes. And he took him to a decision and arguably won one of those. I'm not sure about the other one, but he might have actually won one of those, that aside. And I mean, the countless striking records that he has. Of course, we're talking about Rodriguez here. Yair. He's no slouch either. He only has one loss in the UFC. That was to Frankie Edgar. And he has a highlight reel win over the Korean Zombie. Maybe a little lucky, literally in the last second of the fight. But, we're not taking that away from him. It was still an insane KO. And it's crazy to watch. I actually remember seeing the highlight just after it happened. And I was like, how did he even get knocked out? I don't even see what happened. And then you see, the elbow from nowhere. Anyway, and he's got wins over BJ Penn, Jeremy Stevens, Dan Hooker. So he's no slouch. But, I don't want to take anything away from Yair here. But when we're talking about somebody as talented as Holloway, I mean, there's just absolutely no comparison here. Holloway is the very clear favorite. But the real question is, can Yair last all 5 rounds? I mean, obviously, we've got a clear pick for a winner here. I mean, this is a parlay opportunity if you've ever seen one. But what are we looking at for the over-under here? And I will say, I think the deciding factor here is that we haven't seen a finish from Holloway since 2018. But let's not forget that was to Ortega, who very clearly is very, very hard to finish. And let's, again, remember, I think he's only fought 4 times since then. And 2 of them were against Volkanovski. I mean, obviously he didn't finish Volkanovski. I mean, clearly. And Kattar, he didn't finish, but he also just... Basically, Kattar was a punching bag for, was it 3 rounds or 5 rounds? I can't remember. He was just a punching bag the whole time. So can Rodriguez last 5 rounds? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm thinking I'm probably going to bet on maybe the 4th round. I'm seeing a 4th round finish, maybe a 5th round finish. I do think that this is probably Holloway's best chance to get a finish anytime soon, just because he's probably going to be fighting Volk again, So, I think this is Max's best chance to get a finish. I mean, he definitely has a better chance of finishing Rodriguez than he is finishing Ortega. So I'm saying he's going to get a finish. I think it's going to be in the 4th or 5th round, and that's important because of the odds that I'm just about to read. Obviously, he's just wildly ahead in terms of being a favorite. He's minus 750. Minus 750 right now. And he definitely deserves it. I mean, Rodriguez plus 475. I mean, if you're feeling real lucky, maybe play those odds on Rodriguez. But I mean, you're probably just throwing your money away. I don't know. I can't see any return on that. But you know what? Maybe he does. Maybe he does get some kind of fluky ass KO like he did against the Korean Zombie. Who knows? But again, I think the best thing you can do here is just throw Holloway into a parlay here, and we'll talk about the parlays after this one. But yeah, parlay chance for sure. In the over-under, though, that's what's very interesting. They made this a 3.5, over-under 3.5. And that is why, like I said, I think we're seeing a 4th or a 5th round finish And, probably a 50-50 on whether he gets one of those finishes or a decision. That's the word I was looking for, or a decision. So I think it's a pretty easy choice to throw a decent amount of money at the over 3.5. It's sitting at minus 189 right now. I think that's pretty fair. You should throw some money at that. Under 3.5, sure, maybe Max will just light him up for all three of those, for the first 2 rounds, get a finish in the third. Maybe he'll get it halfway through the fourth, which is what 3.5 means. Maybe, maybe we'll see that. I could see that, but actually, yeah, maybe, because that would be inside the fourth round. But like I said, I think over is the safe bet here. But if you want to throw a couple bucks at the under 3.5, I wouldn't be mad. I would not be mad by that. That's it for the main card. We also, of course, as always, have a few prelims to talk about. I have 1, 2, 3 here. We had 4 last week because of, actually, no, I think it was the week before because of how crazy it was. We got 3 this week. We're toning it down a bit. Also, it's just a fight night. We're not talking about a pay-per-view here. Even though the prelims on this look great, and there were a few that I didn't talk about that actually you would definitely want to see. I mean, you want to see all these prelims. You got Mark Jacasey. I'm not going to talk about that one, but that's a good one. The first one is Kennedy Nzechukwu. I think it's his brother. He's pretty good. So, I mean, that's a good one to watch. Liana Jojua. Oh, I love Liana Jojua. My goodness. She's back. She's probably going to lose, but she's back. And then we're going to talk about the ones that we actually do want to talk about. The first one being Miguel Baeza, Chaos Williams. Basically, my point there, by the way, was just watch all the prelims. They're pretty good ones this week. They're always good, but especially this week. But yeah, first we've got Baeza and Williams. We're actually just going to be talking about the last 3 prelims on the prelim card because all 3 of them are going to be great. Baeza, Chaos Williams. We've got 2 promising young fighters, not contenders yet, in making their way up the rankings. They're probably one of these guys is going to be in the rankings real soon. You can tell. Baeza has had an almost flawless career with only 1 loss, and that was to Ponzinibbio. And Ponzinibbio is no slouch, so we know that. And Chaos has only had 1 loss in the UFC, and that's to the always entertaining Michel Pereira. Really not much separates these 2. So, and they actually even have a similar reach. They're close in age. They have a similar fighting style. So I think this one's going to be dead even. It's going to be crazy to watch. And if you look at the odds, I should finish my thought first. I do think this one's going to be close to watch, but because of their similarities, but I have seen both of these guys fight at least twice now. And honestly, I'm just so impressed each time I watch Baeza, more so than I am with Chaos. So I'm thinking that Baeza has a slight edge here. I'm going with Baeza. He's also just more well-rounded, I think. So I'm leaning towards Baeza, but it could go either way. I do think, though, that we're probably seeing a decision here because of how close they are. So I'm leaning towards that. And again, that's important because of the odds that I'm about to share. Baeza, minus 148. Williams, plus 120. That's pretty fair. Like I said, it's pretty close. I'm still definitely throwing some money at Baeza here. Over 2.5, they have it plus 100, and the under is minus 129. So, I mean, you could go either way on this. But like I said, I think this is a closer one than the odds makers are giving credit here. I am definitely throwing some money at the over 2.5. I think this one is going to go the distance, as they say. Next, after that, Cynthia Calvillo and KGB Lee, Andrea Lee, is another great matchup on the women's side. Calvillo is ranked 5th. Lee is ranked 12th. And I mean, if you haven't heard of Calvillo, you clearly have not watched any women's MMA at all. She's fought Esparza, Chukagian, Andrade, Rodriguez. Sadly, she did not beat any of those people, but she did bring all of them, except for Andrade, to a decision. As for Lee, she's definitely not the most experienced on the roster. What was I just saying? She literally just got her ranking after beating Shevchenko. And before that, she lost 3 in a row. So it's actually kind of crazy that she got a ranked fighter. After losing 3 in a row, you get a ranked fighter, win and get a ranking. Absolutely insane to me. And the odds are suggesting that this is going to be close. And I'll get to that in a bit. And that's not completely unwarranted. Like I said, Lee is a great fighter. But I mean, did you hear what I said about Calvillo, those fights? I mean, that's crazy. To me, Calvillo should be a much, much bigger favorite. Not only that, oh, okay, yeah. It is true, though. Lee has a 5-inch reach advantage, which is something, especially in the women's. A 5-inch reach advantage is pretty big in the women's side. But, you know, when you got somebody as experienced as Calvillo, I'm sure she can overcome the extra 5 inches. I wouldn't even be worried about that. I'm definitely leaning towards Calvillo here. I don't think we're going to see a finish. Again, we don't usually see too many finishes in the women's side of UFC, but especially just because Calvillo is so tough, but also Lee is so tough. I just think we're probably seeing a decision here. Also, both of them have a ridiculous, ridiculous number of decisions on their records. I think we'll be seeing another one here for sure. And let's go to the odds. And they go exactly basically what I was saying. That minus 134 Calvillo. Lee is at plus 110. I think that is absolutely insane that Calvillo is priced at minus 134 right now. Throw some money at that for sure. I mean, they're saying it's dead even almost. I don't see it that way at all. I think we're seeing Calvillo for sure. Just me. But then the over under here for 2.5, of course. They're basically saying it's a guaranteed decision. They've got minus 325 for the over, plus 240 for the under. I probably wouldn't even bother throwing any money at the under. I mean, you're probably just throwing your money away at that point. I mean, maybe you can throw together a nice little parlay with the minus 325, maybe. But yeah, I think really most of your money here should be thrown at Calvillo on this matchup for sure. That is definitely the way that I am leaning on this one. And after that, we've got the last prelim and the last one that I'm going to talk about, the featured prelim, Thiago Moises, Joel Alvarez. Yep, I thought they changed the name on me, but that's right. Ranked contenders, Thiago Moises. Oh, actually, it's just him that's ranked. And Joel Alvarez. See, as we're getting an hour into the show, I'm getting tired. I'm getting hungry. I'm making mistakes here. But that's why I have the script. So you can always still trust what I say because I'm still reading. Anyway, that aside, Joel Alvarez, promising, impressive prospect. Thiago Moises, ranked. Moises has a bit of a back and forth record. 4 wins, 3 losses. And his last bout was a loss to the rising star of the lightweights, Islam Makhachev. On the other hand, Alvarez lost his first fight in the UFC and has won all 3 of them after that, all of which ended in the first 2 rounds. And an interesting point of separation between these two is their reach. Alvarez has a huge 6-inch reach advantage. So on paper, Moises seems to be an easy choice as the favorite just because of that, the experience, I guess. But for some reason, this is a coin toss to me. I keep flipping back and forth between both of them. I really do. Moises obviously has had the tougher competition lately, but Alvarez has been on a tear and he's got that huge reach advantage. Either way this goes, I think we're seeing a great full 3-round fight here. I really do. I'm kind of leaning towards Moises, but as a bettor, you might want to throw some money at Alvarez here. I think this is closer than a lot of people think. And I really do think that it comes down also to that reach advantage too. But yeah, so if you look at the odds, they've got minus 267 for Moises, plus 210 for Alvarez. Like I said, I'm not sure that's warranted. You might want to throw some money at the underdog here. I'll be writing that in the article. Throw some money at the underdog. But, you know, Moises is obviously the much more experienced fighter. So this really is a toss-up for me. And if you go to the over-under, they've got over 2.5, minus 193, under 2.5, plus 145. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, I said you're probably going to be seeing a decision here. You never know, though. With two powerful guys like that, you might see a finish. I'm still thinking you're probably seeing a decision here, though. But yeah, I'm leaning Moises. But again, as a bettor, if you're trying to throw a little bit of risk in to get a decent amount of reward, you might want to throw some money at Alvarez here. He is a good-looking underdog. And that is it for me. If you want to follow me on any of the socials, they're all linked below. And also below, of course, you can get that link to Area 51 to get that betting instant match bonus on Bet99. I'll throw that up after this too. But yeah, that's it for me. If you want to see any other sports, you can always trust on the Area 51 network. On my hat, cool hat, by the way. They've got all the other sports. They've got baseball. They've got soccer. They've got hockey. They've got everything. Check them out. I can't wait to see this Holloway fight. See you next week. I'll throw up the betting information for you here. See you next time.